Hello everybody, my name is Kai, and welcome back to Warframe. Today we will be covering the newest Prime Warframe, Hildryn. Now Hildryn is in a bit of an odd spot as a frame currently. Her second ability, Pillage, is one of the best abilities in the entire game and can be used on many frames through Helminth for great success. But other than Pillage, her first and especially her fourth could use some help, and while the Balefire, her exalted weapons, are decent and with the right setup can do damage, it's honestly more efficient to use other things. And her third ability, Haven, is a pure support ability that does have some use in a specific solo build, but besides that, doesn't offer very much. But before we get to the build, I would just like to remind everybody that I do have a Patreon now. You can go check it out at the link in the description down below to help support the channel and also directly influence the content that does get made on it. And a huge thanks to all of my supporters: Board Platypus, Mad Monk, Scotty Nose, Young Mung, Matt Goat, Arizos, Bad Robot, Jade Rabbit, Shrike, Flying Grizzly, Andreas, Minnie, and Jeffrey Santos. You guys are awesome and help make all of this possible. But moving on back to Hildryn, just because her fourth ability might be in contention for one of the worst abilities in the entire game does not mean that the setup I have for you today is not incredibly strong. It is one of the most popular Hildryn builds, but I've taken it to the next level. Now, Blazing Pillage is an augment for Pillage that lights enemies on fire who are struck by it and also under the effects of Haven. It also grants Hildryn additional shields per enemy struck, and the shields part is important because Hildryn's special mechanic is that she does not use energy, but instead uses her own shields as her energy source. Now, I've discussed Pillage a lot on the channel as it is one of my favorite and also one of the best Helminth abilities in the game, but for Hildryn specifically, part of its function is energy generation in a sense. This also means that running redirection for more shields is equivalent to running something like Prime Flow, making her possibly the only frame in the game to get use out of this mod. But besides being her source of energy generation, Pillage also strips a percentage of armor and shields from enemies, which obviously makes them much easier to kill. Said percentage values are additive to each other, which means that 2 casts of a 50% strip at 200% strength will fully strip enemies of all shields or armor. But that does mean that it requires 400% strength to full strip in a single cast with Pillage, which is actually not that difficult to achieve with the right setup. And finally, Pillage's range does not necessarily scale off of the range stat itself, but actually duration. The initial pulse radius is determined by your range, but the ring will also expand at a speed of 20 meters per second, scaling off of duration. That means that if we are sitting at 100% duration and 100% range, our Pillage will cover in total 48 meters, making duration the optimal stat for increasing Pillage's area of effect over range. Her third ability, Haven, is a great support ability, but it is one that does absolutely nothing except tying into a crucial augment we will discuss later. Since I do base these builds around solo play, this ability by itself does actually nothing except drain your own shields and do radiation damage to enemies. You would think that it would proc the radiation status on them, which would make it a fantastic crowd control ability, but no, it doesn't, only doing the actual radiation damage type. So far this ability seems to be pretty bad, but this build would not function without it, which is where we reintroduce the Blazing Pillage augment. With the augment, all enemies that are under the effects of Haven will now also be hit with a heat dot when also struck by Pillage. This is incredibly strong with the right build, because even now with these enemies fully stripped, it is not doing much damage, but we are going to change that. First off, we have Archon Vitality. Archon Vitality makes all abilities that proc heat, proc 2 heat DOTs, which essentially doubles our damage for free, with just one mod. It also provides health, but Hildryn is not an Aros, so who cares about that? Next up, we are also using Roar as our Helminth ability here, which not only increases the damage that our heat procs do, but also double dips on them because it is a DOT, which further boosts the heat proc damage to absolutely absurd levels because this is a very high strength build. Finally, we are also going to be using the Heat Inherit system to significantly boost our damage here. I won't be fully explaining Heat Inherit, as I just did a very in-depth explanation on my most recent Necros video, which you should 100% watch after this. But in short, use an Epitaph modded for as much heat as possible, alongside also using a Bane mod and Viral 2, and before damaging enemies with the Pillage Haven combo, prime them with your Epitaph to massively increase your damage. I mean, seriously, go watch the Necros video after this, because the damage multipliers that you get from this are just ridiculous. Now moving on to the build though, I've already explained why Archon Vitality and the Blazing Pillage augment are necessary for this build, but our next most important stat is strength. Fully stripping enemies with Pillage requires either 400% strength or 328% when using corrosive projection, which is obviously much easier to achieve and what we'll be using today. Running all of these mods plus Blind Rage is also not an issue because Hildryn does use her shields as her energy pool, and Redirection provides her with a massive energy pool alongside more defenses when you pair it up with Adaptation, so you get that DR on all of your overshields. And then we also are using Stretch here because unfortunately Haven does not scale off of duration like Pillage does, so to use the augment we do need a little bit more range on this, and Natural Talent just helps with the spamming of Pillage since it is our main DPS ability here. You also do need to run Unairu for its passive Poise, as it gives you knockdown resistance, which will be good because you're going to be spamming your Epitaph at your feet a lot. When you combine all of these things together, you get one of the funnier builds in the game in my opinion. If you see an enemy, hit them with your Epitaph, cast Pillage, which is not only killing them, but also giving you more overshields, which then gives you more energy to recast it. It's an infinite cycle that is actually really strong, as sometimes, if set up correctly, the heat DOTs you hit enemies for is in the 70,000s, pretty much just killing everything instantly. Truly a very funny build that I would recommend if you feel like turning your brain off and not really having to aim. But besides that, that is going to be it for this video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this one. A little bit late on this, but been so busy lately. I actually had no time, but uploads are going to be on a more regular schedule, aiming for one every 3 days. You can tell how different this is from the rest of the video because this is unscripted. Yeah, I write scripts for my stuff now. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for supporting me. It is just, yeah, the growth is continuing to be absolutely crazy, and I just want to say thank you, everybody. Might have a stream later tonight if you are watching this on the day that it releases, so keep your eye out for that. Not sure, figure it out. But I hope this was informative and helped you, and I will see all of you guys in the next one. Peace.